All right. Sorry, I needed a drink. Before I get talking about the Redskins of 2015, let me start off by saying this. So that sometimes there are certain organizations, they never cease to amaze you with their stupidity. There are certain organizations that just don't get it. They don't have a fucking clue. And frankly, sometimes there are fan bases going along with that don't get it and don't have a fucking clue either. And when I think about teams in those areas that fit into those categories, I think about the Washington Redskins. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I live out here in Richmond, Virginia now. There's a lot of Redskin fans out here. This is Redskins territory, no question about it. And I hear the dumb shit, the absolutely ridiculously dumb shit that people say sometimes. Now, some of them completely understand that Daniel Snyder is an idiot, that Jay Gruden may be an idiot, and that this team isn't going anywhere anytime fucking soon. But what I'm referencing is more so talking about the whole Robert Griffin III situation. Talking about RG Knee, if you will. Now, I understand that a lot of Redskins fans have probably had it with this guy. I understand that a lot of Redskins fans are frustrated with the guy. I understand that Robert Griffin III, in a lot of ways, is his own worst enemy. He can't stay healthy. He can't keep his mouth shut. He can't seem to figure out what is required of being a real leader and a franchise caliber quarterback at the NFL level. It's very frustrating. And I understand that after a certain period of time, people within the organization and fans as well say, hey, when's enough enough? When does it become a sunken cost? And when is it time to move the fuck on? Believe me, as a Bears fan, you're 7 of color. You're fucking 7. I get it. Believe me. You've only had to deal with that asshole for 3. So if anybody gets it, it's me. But holy hell Christ. This Kirk Cousins love fest is completely and totally fucking ridiculous. Jay Gruden clearly loves the guy. And he would, because Jay Gruden apparently is an idiot. Many of the players reportedly believe more in Kirk Cousins and think that they can actually focus now on winning football games and they have a better chance of winning with Kirk Cousins as opposed to RG3. So clearly, many of the Redskins players are also fucking idiots. There are also a lot of Redskins fans that are happy and ecstatic and doing backflips because now they think indeed that Kirk Cousins could be the guy and they think he's the long-term answer and they think they're going to win football games this year. And apparently, a lot of those fans are idiots too. As bad as we could talk about how RG3 has played, and he has, once you get past that rookie year, he's been bad. What the fuck did Kirk Cousins show you last year that made you think he would be any different? Here's what I don't get. The Redskins gave up so much as an organization to get RG3. Why would you not see it fucking through? Furthermore, knowing you gave so much up to RG3, you were probably going to have to be married to him and tied to him a little bit longer than you normally would have to with the first-round quarterback if he's shown himself to not be a bust, because you basically have given up 3 drafts, basically, for the guy. So you have to give it all. You have to let it fully play out. You have to go for the duration. So why in the fuck would an organization bring in a head coach that clearly doesn't like the quarterback, never wanted the quarterback, and doesn't want to deal with the quarterback? What in the fuck makes anybody think that this is any type of non-toxic situation for any young quarterback to be in? If you want RG3 to pan out, then maybe put him in an environment and in a situation where he actually has the chance to fucking pan out. I don't want to come across as an RG3 defender because in a lot of ways he's been his own worst enemy and he needs to just play better and he needs to stop getting fucking hurt. He needs to stop making excuses. He needs to stop saying stupid shit. He clearly needs to work harder. Stop being so much about the freaking commercials and everything else and get his nose to the grindstone, learn that goddamn playbook and play some fucking football. But holy fucking Christ, Kirk Cousins is your answer? Kirk Cousins? Remember the guy that was so bad last year that they ended up getting benched for Colt fucking McCoy? Colt McCoy! Holy hell. Apparently, somebody scalped y'all's intelligence. I don't fucking know. Anyways, looking at this Redskins team for 2015, honestly, does it fucking matter? This team is on the fast track to nowhere. Now, maybe I'll get fooled. And maybe Kirk Cousins in his second go-round, which sometimes can happen, plays better. He figures it out. Because he does have some nice offensive skill players there. Talk about Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garcon, Andre Roberts in the slot. Maybe you talk about Alfred Morris as well in the running game, a guy that's a bit underrated in my opinion as a between the tackles runner. You look at tight end, they've only got one now. When he's healthy, he can be explosive and a difference maker in Jordan Reed, but that's the big thing. When does he not get healthy, hurt a knee, hurt an ankle, get a concussion, whatever the fucking case might be? So you've got some pieces there. You have the ability to run the ball. That is one thing I could say about the Redskins. Even with the loss of Halou, their backup. You drafted Matt Jones in the third round. With Morris and Matt Jones, you've got two physical between the tackles runners that are a little more athletic and elusive than people want to give them credit for. This is a Redskins team that will be able to run the ball, even behind a questionable offensive line. This is a Redskins team that can control some clock. This is a Redskins team that can have some sort of physical identity. And that could help open up things on the outside for the skill players out there. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. This team has invested in the defensive line, bringing in Pork Chop, Terrence Knighton, Stephen Paye. You've got Jason Hatcher in the fold from the previous year. They've spent some money on that defensive line. So you would expect it to play better this year. And finally getting Jim Haslett's sorry ass the fuck out of town, maybe the Redskins defense will actually start to do something and show some fucking improvements without having to worry about a snake in the grass like Haslett undercutting him every step along the fucking way. But then when you look at this Redskins team, there's just concerns all over the place. That offensive line was really bad last year. I don't care if it was RG3, Kirk Cousins, Colt McCoy, didn't fucking matter who the hell would ever succeed behind that crappy offensive line. They need to be better. They drafted Brandon Scherff in the top 5, of course, so they can play him at right guard because that's what good organizations do, right? But if anything else, a Scherff should be able to come in at least initially and be able to provide some type of upgrade on the interior of the line, some type of physical, mauling, run-blocking presence there. Again, something that they need because this team's going to need to be able to run the football. To have any shot at anything this year, they have to be able to run the football. And you would hope that Scherff would be an upgrade on the interior of that offensive line and the pass protection to anything that they had last year. As you look at this quarterback situation, though, again, this is how bad it is for the Redskins. People are excited about Kirk Cousins. Like, it's gotten so bad where y'all fooled yourself into thinking Kirk Cousins is the answer long term. Believe me, again, as a Bears fan, I've seen this for years with Cutler. No matter what anybody hears or sees or clearly knows, they still continue to fool themselves into thinking it's better than it is. They still continue to try and convince themselves that there is an alternate universe out there where Cutler is God. Kirk Cousins is not the long-term answer. Accept it. I mean, and even this is the case, how stupid does it look, let's say, if Kirk Cousins comes out after maybe he has 2 or 3 games and he plays pretty well, but then he starts to stink up the joint again. Then you get to the point of what the hell do you do? Then what do you do? Go to RG3 when you've already undercut him and you completely shot any remaining confidence he would have had. You have no belief in him. You have no buy-in with him. He has no belief in himself or belief in you and the organization. Just what a mess. And then defensively, it's a good thing that their defensive line is solid. I do like what they have at the edge rush position with Kerrigan. Last year's second-round pick, Trent Murphy. This year's second-round pick, Preston Smith. They've got some guys that can generate some rush off the edge. But they're going to need it because I'm not that sold on their secondary. I'm not going to say they're terrible, but they're not particularly good. And a lot of Redskins fans know that this is an area that they've wanted to have addressed for years, frankly, since Sean Taylor was taken from us far too soon. And it still hasn't been addressed, and it's still an issue. In terms of players to watch for this Redskins team in 2015, I'll look first on offense to that offensive line and Brandon Scherff. The Redskins spend a top 5 pick on a right guard, or a left guard, or whatever fuck guard you want to play him. Middle guard, up the butt guard, I don't care. He better be a beast. He better be a stud. Not just to justify that draft position, but also because, frankly, the Redskins need him to be. They need him to be that type of impact player in the interior of that offensive line. That's what they have to get out of him. And then they look at Jordan Reed. The Redskins are depleted at tight end. Jordan Reed, at moments, has flashed some big-time potential. as that versatile type of H-back type of weapon that can line up all over the place and do some things, create some mismatches from the tight end position. They need him to be able to do that consistently throughout 2015. It'll open up things outside for Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garcon. It will open up things out the flat for a guy like Alfred Morris or even a Matt Jones. It will help open up the running game. It will do so many things. They need Jordan Reed to play well. They need, most importantly of all, Jordan Reed to stay healthy. Because if you want Kirk Cousins to succeed, you can talk about what's a quarterback's best friend. A great offensive line, a running game, and then a tight end that he can depend on. That's what it is. And then I look at Preston Smith, their second-round pick out of Mississippi State. I was concerned when they drafted him about whether or not he was the best schematic fit for them. But so far, based off of what I saw in the preseason, it looked like he was adapting well. I've never doubted his athleticism in terms of straight ahead. This is a guy that can move, and this is a guy that, as part of a trio, along with Kerrigan, along with Murphy, could give the Redskins some type of consistent edge rushing presence in 2015, which would help their defense, especially in the back end, because, again, I don't think that secondary is all that particularly good. When I look at the Redskins' schedule, I really look at the beginning and I say they got to get off to a good start. Because if you want to go with Kirk Cousins and you want to believe in Kirk Cousins, then you have to get off to a good start. There's the opportunity there for this Redskins team to get off to a somewhat decent start. But this season is all about the first, 6 games or so. It's all about weeks 1 through 7. Because that's where it's at. If the Redskins can get off to a decent start, then who knows what could happen. They start believing in Kirk Cousins. That means that their offense is probably playing well. That means their offensive line is blocking well. That means they're getting a consistent running game. That means Jordan Reed's probably stayed healthy, which means that their defense, as a result, probably isn't playing all that bad. They're not dominant, but they're not just bleeding points left and right all over the damn place. The Redskins have got to jump out early to a decent start behind Kirk Cousins. Help him build some confidence. Help build some confidence in him with the team. You look at the first 3 weeks. They got Miami and St. Louis at home, and then they go to New York to take on the Giants. You could sit there and say for the Redskins that maybe they lose to Miami, but maybe you could put up a good fight. But you never know. In the NFL, maybe a freaking win. But week 2, St. Louis, a team that in theory should be better than them, that's a game you got to win. Going to the Giants in week 3, a divisional game. The Giants aren't that particularly strong. That's a game you got to win. If you have any thoughts of starting off this season well and building up Kirk Cousins and riding with him and getting some fruits of that labor, so to speak, it's got to start right here. The Redskins have got to find a way, at least if anything else, to win 1 of those first 3 and preferably 2 of those first 3. And then I look at another stretch of games, weeks 5 through 7. They go to Atlanta, to the Jets, and host Tampa Bay. All 3 of those games could potentially be winnable for the Redskins. And when I say winnable, keep in mind, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying that they should win. They are just games that are potentially winnable. Similar to when I talk about a team like the Falcons, I would mention the Redskins as a winnable game. When you look at this Redskins team, even though they're 2 straight road games at Atlanta, at the Jets, and then they come home to host Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers, all 3 of those, in theory, are winnable games. If you can find a way, even if you go 1-2 in that first 3, and then you can come here in this 3-game stretch, and maybe you can beat the Jets in New York, and then you can come home and beat Tampa Bay. You've gone 2-1 in that stretch of winnable games, and at least you maybe are on the path to a 500 season, which for the Redskins, God we know, would be a huge fucking improvement. Ultimately, look, I'm not a big fan of this Redskins team heading into 2015, and I think you could tell. I think this belief in Kirk Cousins is personally ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if Jay Gruden was the first coach fired during the 2015 season. This team has some decent areas. Like I said, their skill players on offense aren't that bad at all. I think their front 7 on defense isn't that bad either. But, again, when you have concerns with the offensive line, concerns with the quarterback, concerns with the back end of the defense, that's usually not a good formula for success. And you look at the fact that they're playing in a division where I do think there are 3 teams that are clearly better than them, it's not necessarily a good indicator for future success for this team this year. I personally think that, in part because of what all they gave up for that RG3 deal years ago, that it really depleted their team. They lacked depth in many areas. This is a Redskins team that, frankly, in my mind, would be lucky to win 5 games in 2015. Boom, I said it. You could take your Kirk Cousins love and shove it up your keister.